Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, let's go back. You grew up literally in the shadows of the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, the birthplace of the NFL. Your dad's a famous high school coach in Ohio. How did that upbringing impact who you are today?
I think I fell in love with the game of football since I was 4, 5 years old, and having the ability to go to practice and you literally pass the Hall of Fame every day, because the practice field was right there next to it. So just understanding what he put into it and seeing that from such a young age, the sacrifice, the time, but also the reward, being around the players and seeing the joy that he had for doing his job the right way when they had success. It was easy to fall in love with that at a young age.
Do you ever find yourself on the practice field saying something that if you traced it back, you would say that comes directly from my dad?
Absolutely. I think most of the things that I do in terms of my personality and the way that I communicate are from him, and that was a blessing that I was able to be around him on the practice field in high school football. It's not as secluded as professional football and some of those other things are. So there's a lot of the things that he did that I saw growing up that I still do today.
Incredible run here with the Patriots over the last 20 plus years. Most of the games you've coordinated, Tom Brady was your quarterback. You come back here last year, and now you have this guy, this second-year, uber-talented quarterback in Drake Maye. I can't imagine you started with Drake where you finished with Tom.
Yeah, no, we didn't. And I think a big part of this evolution for him has been just understanding where he was at when we got here and starting at his place, and trying to build from there. And I think there's so much more growth to go, but he's really allowed us to kind of, this pace has quickened as we've gone on because of his ability to think and process and then do a lot of things well on the field. And we're certainly not running the exact same things, but the system in general is the same, and really he deserves all the credit for that. But getting to know him from the beginning and then starting where he could really process and start to play his own style of football was really important for us.
How are he and Tom similar, and how are they different?
I think they both love football. There's no question about it. Winning's important to them, and I don't know that I've been around two guys that are better human beings. Treat everybody the same in the building. Their teammates love them. They want to play for them. And those things are all, very, very similar. Drake's different physically, than Tom was. Tom knew that he had to win with his mind, his preparation, his accuracy. All of those things were really his greatest traits. And Drake has this physical gift, and can do things with his legs and throw the ball and access places on the field that are really unique. So, it's been fun for us to get to know a different style of quarterback and then try to adapt to it.
Okay, so when you take over as the coordinator in 2005, Brady had already won 3 Super Bowls. Drake Maye, you take over, he's in his second year coming off of a 4-win season. How did you have to be different in dealing with these guys?
In 2005, it was more of me acclimating to what Tom was already successful doing, and I had a good teacher in Charlie Weiss, and just really how do I fit into this equation, because Tommy obviously was already successful, and we just needed to try to keep that going and try to build from there. With Drake, it was really about patience, and learning him and what he needed from us, and our staff, and going at his pace, because it doesn't matter what I know. If he doesn't do it well or doesn't understand it, it's really not going to work. So I think the relationship part of it, understanding what he really responded to the best, was the most important thing. And we've gone at his pace every step of the way, and he's decided when it's time to go to the next spot.
Yeah, so you're going along and you think he's going to be able to handle this, and you look up and you say, we're winning a lot of games. This guy's completing 72% of his passes. Do you put the accelerator down a little bit more?
I think there's been times during the season where we had to, and there's been moments during the course of the year where you just recognized he was ready, you know. And I remember the first Buffalo game and the second half, and we're behind and on the road, and it's like, well, let's put this game in his hands and see what he can do. And he responded, and he's done that many times throughout the course of the season. So, yeah, in many ways, he's decided when it's time to do that. And I think you just got to let him have it. You know, when the ball is in his hands, a lot of good things happen, and we're hoping we have one more of those here on Sunday.
Yeah, an incredible season. You get to the playoffs and hasn't been quite as sharp. 6 fumbles in the first couple playoff games. You know, people use this expression, just let it rip. Well, you and I both know, you go to Denver and you turn the ball over 3 times, that's going to be a hard game to win.
Yeah.
How do you as a coach find the right words to help him balance being aggressive, but also taking care of the ball and winning the game?
I think these 3 games have been really important for him, you know, and sometimes the greatest teacher is going through the experiences yourself. You can sit and listen to me talk about it all you want, but until you've lived through it and you understand that the speed of the game and the competition in many ways changes when you get to the postseason, it's hard to just hear that and do something different. So I think he's really adapted a little bit as we've gone. He understands the importance of taking care of the football, but he's also going to need to be himself, you know, and he's an aggressive player by nature, and he's going to let it rip, and he's going to try to do that as many times as he can while taking care of the football and being smart. But I don't think we can do one and not the other. Sure. It's going to be hard to win doing that way. So we're going to need him to do both on Sunday.
Take me into that film room when he turns the ball over in those early playoff games.
Yeah.
Are you sitting there and are we dissecting this? Are we coaching them hard? How are we handling those situations?
I don't think it's hard anymore, you know, with Drake. You know, he understands what he's done, that he wants to do better. So it's more of is there something we can tell him that might be beneficial in the moment, you know? And I think more than anything else, recognizing when you're in one of those situations, you know, and it's not always easy to simulate that in practice. You got a red jersey on, you're not going to get hit, you know, so, you know, when you're in one of those scenarios in the game, what do I need to do? And I thought there was some good examples in Denver, you know, of, all right, the pocket's not perfect. What do I need to do? We're not going to lose the game punting in the first quarter. You know what I mean? So I think just he's gained some wisdom, you know, at a young age through these first 3 games that hopefully will serve us well here.
Okay, talk about gaining wisdom. This is officially your 10th Super Bowl. This is going to be your 7th as a coordinator. What have you learned from these other experiences in this big game?
You know, this game is kind of one of its own. It's not really relatable to the rest of the season. There's so much extra time to prepare for it. The day itself is completely different. It's longer. There's a lot of things that happen on this day that don't happen on any other regular game day. So I think just getting ourselves into a good routine, you know, not making more of this than it really needs to be, trying to be ourselves, go through our normal process. I think you can over-prepare, you know. There's so much film. You can talk about last year all you want. But at the same time, you know, there's only so much we can digest and only so much we can do well. So we're going to try to practice the things that we think we're best at and then go out and let the guys try to be aggressive and play fast on Sunday. And I think that served us well in the past, and I hopefully that'll do the same thing on Sunday.
Yeah, you know, I've always loved your offenses. They've been a great mix for me of old school stuff and kind of new cutting edge stuff. I'm watching the game the other day. I mean, you're running plays that I've seen you guys run for 25 years here that have been in football for 100 years, right? And you do them really well. And then you have something in the game, some trick play, some flea flicker, some double pass or whatever. Talk about the balance as a play caller week in and week out, but particularly in a Super Bowl of those two things.
I think the players will feel most comfortable doing things that they've done the most. And so obviously in any critical situation, you want to call something that they have the most confidence in, which means they've repped it a lot. Because that's our job, I think, is to let them do something that they're good at. I think timing and feeling out the game, if there's something that you have that's a little unique for the opponent, you know, some games we have things and we never get to them because it wasn't the right time. And other times you feel like, man, this is perfect. You know, this is exactly when we should use this. So I think you go in with both things ready. leaning on the things you know the best, you know how to do the best, and ready to use the other things when you need to if you get the chance.
A lot of guys have them on the call sheet. Not many guys call them. You always seem to call them in those big moments. Where does that come from?
I think we practice them a lot, you know, and sometimes it's 3, 4, 5 weeks of practicing it without feeling good enough to call it. But once you've got, you know, a month's worth of repetitions, and sometimes it's us seeing the play break down in practice, but we responded the proper way. And then you feel confident as a coach or a play caller saying, you know what, if it happens in the game, I think Mondre will do the right thing, or Drake will do the right thing in this situation. So I think they give you confidence to call it, and once they feel good about it, then usually I feel the same way.
Biggest thing you learned from being on all these great Super Bowl teams?
This will be the hardest game that we've played all year, and it will be the best opponent. It always ends up that way. You can look at the film, you can study it, you can see things that you think, you know what, we might be able to attack this or that. But this team will be the team that's playing the best, that's improved the most, that's the most well coached, and that will have the best plan. And it will always feel that way when you get into the game. And you know, it's going to be a 4-quarter thing where you're going to have to adjust, you're going to have to deal with some adversity. And you have so much respect and admiration for the opponent when you're finished with this game, because you realize that was the best team we played.
Yeah. What's the biggest thing you've learned from Coach Belichick?
Just to be adaptable, you know, and whether that's in a game, whether that's to your personnel, whether that's to an adversity that you may face, something that happens to your team that you wish didn't happen. I think he was always very willing to kind of pivot if we needed to pivot, and find the way, because he always told us this, that there's a way to win every game. You know, it may not be the same. You know, beating Denver was different than trying to beat somebody else, you know, and certainly trying to beat Seattle will be no different than that. So be adaptable, understand what your team is and what they do well, and then try to use your strengths to win the game.
How much did the presence of Mike Vrabel as the head coach here impact your decision to come back to New England?
Significantly. You know, I was here when he came here as a player, and I was a young coach, but just to see what he was about, you know, he loves football, and he's a hard worker. He's also a great human being, and to have an opportunity to join his staff and to work for him and to serve him has been, you know, not only something I've really enjoyed, but it's also something that I'm proud of, because I saw this guy as a player, you know, and I knew where he grew up, because he grew up close to where I did. And just to be able to see his success as a coach, and he's adapted too. He's changed. This is a new era of player we're dealing with, and I've learned an incredible amount from just watching what he does and how he relates to the players, and just seeing his vision and this culture come to life has been really cool.
4 wins last year, now to the Super Bowl. How has his leadership impacted this team? There's
a belief in the identity that he has preached since he got here. He wanted us to, you know, to embrace playing a certain style of football with great effort and finish, and taking care of the football and hunting it on defense, and being situationally ready to go, and all those things that he's talked about since he got here. He hasn't wavered. He's been very consistent with his messaging, and he also has created a bond between the staff, the players, one another, that people want to play for and coach for, you know, because we care about the people that we're with. So he didn't cut corners. He took the time that was necessary to do that, and I think that's an enormous reason why we're still playing today.
How are you a different coach now, going into your 10th Super Bowl, than you were in 2001 when you first showed up here?
I've learned a lot from a lot of people. I would also say that the time that I had away a year ago from the game there's just a completely new joy for me in watching our guys have success and being a part of a team, you know. So not that you ever lose that, but you know, you go through these different cycles during your career, and that was a blessing for me. And now to have an opportunity to do this again with a different group of people, different leadership, but the same organization, it's been incredibly special.
Could you ever have imagined when you were that 4-year-old kid, the shadow of the Hall of Fame, next to your dad's practices, that you'd be coaching in your 10th Super Bowl before the age of 50?
Yeah, no, there's no way I could have imagined that. But he's always told me, if you love the game will love you back. And so I saw him do that since I was this high, and I've tried to do that. Every year I've had the opportunity to do so, and it's certainly given me everything I put into it too.
Hey, congrats on everything, man.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.